All right, guys, this is Dr. Nick Fanning with Vitality Chiropractic. We are waiting for Dr. Abbie Ballard. I know right now she's watching us, and she's getting to the screen where she'll be able to actually sign on and converse with us. So I ask everybody just to be a little bit patient, and this will be actually deleted probably from the recording, so if you're watching the recording, you won't even have to worry about it. But let me see if I can get her to get on here. All right, so send her Google invites. Send her email again. All right. Okay. Try email again, send new link. And we'll see how that works for her. So hopefully this will be just a moment, and we will get everybody on here. Really do appreciate all the docs that are willing to help me out in doing these programs. I live out here in the middle of nowhere, Ogallala, Nebraska, and it is hard to find great presenters out here so that I can increase the health of my community. So I rely on a lot of my friends and people that I've networked around the country to come in and give their very, very best. And so I think this is such a great opportunity for her, but in her community, but also the community I live in. So I'm very, very excited for that. Here we go. So I'm going to bring her onto the screen. I'm so glad that she's on there. All right. I see her, but I'm having a hard time bringing her up. Control room. Boom. You're muted. I show that you're muted still. Oh no, I can't hear you. I can see you. You look great. On my end, I can control your volume, and I cranked it up. How's that? Nope. I'm really bad at mouth reading. Oh no! Okay. I muted you from my end, and now I'm going to unmute you just again, just to see if that helps. There, I unmuted myself, I unmuted you. Got Zach Ballard on here. We're going to get you guys in here. Hi. There's you. See if I can get Zach on here. I got two angles of you. Talk again. Oh. Ah.
There we go.
All right. You're out of here. Nice.
Okay, so I think I'm going to switch computers.
Okay.
I just got to plug in that one so it doesn't die. Sorry, I'm going to get loud for a second.
Understandable.
Okay. I'm going to shut down this one because I think this is the one you can hear me on.
Sounds good.
Okay. Hello.
Howdy. How's it going?
It's going well. How are you?
Fantastic. So, everybody, I wanted you to meet Dr. Abbie Ballard. She has been a participant in our past interviews before, and she's done a lot of women's health talks with us, so make sure you check out her audios are on my website as well. But she is here to talk to us about slaying your bad holiday habits. And Dr. Abbie, I am so glad that you were able to join us. Can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself first before we get started?
Sure, absolutely. As Nick said, I'm a chiropractor. I love to do a little bit of public speaking, but this is the first Google Hangout, so please excuse my technical difficulties. But I didn't really start out to be a chiropractor. I knew that I was supposed to be a doctor, and then it was a matter of figuring out what type. So I grew up on a farm, thought I might want to be a vet. That didn't really pan out. Started working in pharmacies, and I loved the work. I loved the people. And I applied and was accepted to pharmacy school. So I really thought that drugs and medications were going to be my life. Mm-hmm. But then out of my own personal hubris, I thought, why be the person that's filling the prescriptions when I can be the person writing them? So I decided to go to be a medical doctor instead. And while I was in undergraduate for pre-medicine, I worked for a couple medical doctors that were doing, or not medical doctors, PhD doctors that were doing cancer research. And I thought that was really interesting. But it turns out I worked so much during that time that I didn't really have time to study for the MCAT. So I had a friend who said, why don't you look into chiropractic school? I think you'd like it. So I did. I started chiropractic school and made it 80% of the way through, if you can believe it, and still had planned on being a medical doctor. And then I went on a mission trip and saw true chiropractic miracles and realized I'd missed the entire point of my profession. It was a 180 in the way that I thought. You know, I had seen people coming in and getting bags and bags of literally bags of medications from the pharmacy, and that didn't scare me away from the medical community. It was when I saw the power of chiropractic care and what it could do. So like I say, did a complete 180. Chiropractic truly is my passion and my love. And then I realized how much we could do as well with some nutritional support for the chiropractic care that we were already giving. So that's become my second passion, I guess you'd say, is functional medicine. So using proper diet and supplementation to restore health and vitality to the body.
Awesome. Great intro. And guys, I do have to say that you are in for a treat today, because Abbie is one of those few people that I know that has a true passion for what she does. And that just kind of drips out, oozes out, you'll find out. And it's always been fun getting to interview her and talk with her about that. And you guys are going to totally see why. And she has a growing big family. And believe it or not, she just had twins. And I'm sure life is a little crazy for you. So again, thank you so much for sacrificing your night away from putting them to bed or whatever it might be. But thank you so much for coming in and joining us tonight.
Well, thank you for the invitation. You may see them since I'm at home, they might pop out of the living room or that kind of thing, but we'll try to keep them corralled for now.
I understand. So, Dr. Abbie, what are we going to talk about tonight?
Tonight, we're going to talk about a couple different things. We're going to start by talking about blood sugar handling, or really how our blood sugar affects our health. We'll talk a little bit about chronic inflammation, how these things drive cholesterol, and then what it can really look like to make simple changes in your diet to improve your health, your blood sugar handling, and give you some really practical tips. Because honestly, what good is it if I can sit here and talk to you and inform you if you don't have the tools to then take that and apply it to your day-to-day life?
Absolutely. And so I guess this talk probably isn't just for the diabetic who has problems with their blood sugar, but you're talking about this is something for everybody to even pay attention to, even kids and families, right? Absolutely.
So just to kind of ease our way into this, to give everybody a little bit of perspective, when we're talking about diabetes, and these are some facts and statistics from 2012, so they're a little bit outdated, but just know that everything is just exponentially greater now. So in 2012, the adult population that had diabetes, had been diagnosed with diabetes in the United States, hit 29.1 million people. Okay. Pre-diabetes, so people who are not quite diabetic, but their body's working towards that, 86 million people aged 20 and above. That had increased by 7 million people in 2 years. So this is absolutely a relevant topic. We all know somebody who is diabetic or who's approaching diabetes. It's the seventh leading cause of death in the United States and contributes to 7 of the 10 leading causes of death. So we're talking a massive problem. I'll talk about this in just a little bit, but now 30 to 35% of new type 2 diabetes cases are occurring in children.
Whoa. So
yeah,
you're saying that of all the cases in all of America, that nearly a third of them are in kids? A third
of new cases are children. So this is why it's so important as adults to understand the effect that sugar has on our diet, so that we can start making smarter choices for our children, because we're clearly not at this point with rates growing the way that they are. We're talking a cost in the United States of $246 billion a year. 176 billion of that is direct medical costs. So paying for the medications, paying for the testing, paying for the hospitalizations of people with diabetes. Now, like I said, diabetes is contributing to 7 of the 10 leading causes of death. So this is, 246 billion for just 1 of the leading causes of death, let alone its play in 7 of the other 10. Our blood sugar has a tendency to drive inflammation in the body, and then that helps or does contribute to autoimmune disease. All autoimmune disease has an underlying inflammation process going on. And when you look at the top medications in the United States, 4 of the top 10 medications are for autoimmune disease. So we can't discount the role of blood sugar and inflammation in this process. It's more broad and more far-reaching than we realize.
And you just think about just inflammation by itself, how many people are on anti-inflammatories alone. So, I mean, not only autoimmune diseases, but just chronic inflammation as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, so one of the things that I wanted to give you guys is a kind of a base of knowledge to start from. So we're going to talk a little bit about how blood sugar is managed. We kind of look at it pretty simply, and we go, oh, the pancreas controls our blood sugar, and that's it. But it's not really true. The pancreas does produce a couple of the hormones, but then our adrenal glands get involved, our thyroid gland gets involved, our liver gets involved. So all of these things play a role. So when we talk about blood sugar handling, it really affects the health of the entire body. That's one thing chiropractic care is great about, is looking at the body as a whole. Our medical system tends to have kind of a reductionist viewpoint. So we go, what's wrong with this system, with this mechanism? How do we give you a drug that changes that mechanism? But we didn't really then go back and go, okay, so now that we changed this mechanism, how's it affecting the whole system? So today we're going to talk about little changes that can have a whole system effect and be more positive for the entire body. So like I say, quick review of the hormones and what they do. The pancreas produces 2 hormones, insulin. Insulin is released after we've eaten a meal to help lower blood sugar. Okay. Glucagon does the opposite. When our body starts to sense that our blood sugar is too low, it says, hey, liver, break apart some fat, give me some sugar. Okay, so glucagon affects the liver. That's how the liver gets tied into this. We also have cortisol. How many of you have heard of cortisol, the stress hormone? So, exactly, me. So cortisol gets a really bad rap for making people fat. That's not really how it works necessarily. So imagine cortisol is just kind of hanging out in the adrenal glands, this is where the adrenals come into town. Mm-hmm. The adrenal glands are our stress glands, okay? And we have a couple different modes for stress response. We can be in a fight or flight response. We can be rest and digest mode. Our body has to switch back and forth between the two. So when we're normally functioning, we'll eat some food. Insulin goes, let's pull some of that sugar out of the blood and into the body. Now imagine you walk out of that restaurant and you trip over the sidewalk and you eat it hard. Okay, so you absolutely wipe out. First thing that happens is our heart rate goes up, we get all stirred up, and we go into a stress response because our body thinks we might have to fight or we might have to run. That's where cortisol comes into play. Normally we would be pulling sugar out of our blood. I'm sorry.
It's okay, I have 4 kids, I totally understand.
So normally we should be pulling sugar out of the blood, but cortisol says we need that, don't put that away yet. So that's what cortisol does. So it's perfect for us when we have a short-term stress response. So, you're in a car accident, you might need that sugar to run the body. It's not great when you're sitting in your office cubicle and somebody's just dumped a big project on your lap. Okay, so that's when we have that stress response and our blood sugar stays higher than it should be. Now imagine we pile stress upon stress upon stress onto ourselves like we do in, everyday life in American culture. that's when we start to see that chronically high blood sugar, and that's where we start to see really tired adrenal glands. So like I say, we have big regulators, and they're doing what they should be doing for the most part. But then we add in the standard American diet and our standard stressful American lives, and it can lead to big problems pretty quickly.
Absolutely. I mean, if you think about, nobody's immune to that. And, you and I are business owners, but we also have kids. And then you think about the standard American, they have 5 different jobs, especially if you're a mom working. And then on top of that, you try to relax by going on Facebook, and all you see is bad news. And
oh, it's bad.
You watch TV and it's just bad news. And so, case of modern lifestyle, and gosh, it's just setting us up for failure, folks. So I hope you pay attention to the rest of the year.
Yes. And I wanted to explain how inflammation, this chronic blood sugar issue, really drives inflammation and drives cholesterol. Because one of the things I see constantly as a healthcare provider is people on what are called statin drugs, which lower cholesterol. It kind of drives me crazy because honestly, when you go to the research and you start to look at it, the research shows over and over again that statins are worthless, and hear me say this, worthless for the primary prevention of heart disease. So if you don't have heart disease, statins are not going to protect your health. The things I'm going to tell you today, how to change your diet and adapt to stress better, to eat better, those are the things that are going to keep you from developing heart disease. Okay, statins are there for, generally speaking, men who have known heart disease. Okay, but every person, especially those on a statin, will benefit from changing their lifestyle, and that will help to reverse the heart disease process. Okay, so to explain this, like I said, when we are under stress, we release that hormone called cortisol, and that leaves our blood sugar levels higher. So what can happen is that blood sugar, and you'll have to hang with me a bit because this can get a little bit scientific, that blood sugar will bind with proteins and with lipid and form things, and they're called AGEs. Okay, so it's not necessarily that important that you know all these terms, but these are advanced glycation end products. Okay, so just think these sugars bump into fats and proteins, and they kind of lump together. Okay, then that AGE will land on a cell and become a RAGE. Okay, so it binds to a spot on the cell. The problem is once it binds to a spot on the cell, it turns on something called nuclear factor kappa beta within the cell. So I know that's very scientific, but the important thing to know is once that turns on in the middle of the cell, that can turn on 400, hear me say this, 400 other genes that control inflammation. Okay, so we go from having just blood sugar that's a little high to low-grade inflammation in the entire body. And what happens over time is that the lining of our blood vessels will get irritated by this inflammation, and they'll start to crack. And what our body does is go, oh, no, we can't have leaky blood vessels like this. So we call out cholesterol to patch that up, to smooth those broken sides of the blood vessels. That's what cholesterol is there to do. We wouldn't have that excessive cholesterol if we didn't have that excessive inflammation, okay? So cholesterol is doing the job that it's meant to do. Over time, that cholesterol can oxidize, it can harden, free radicals will damage these things, and the little platelets within your blood can stick to those cholesterol patches. The inflammation within the blood vessel, the cracking of the blood vessel, that's already arterial disease, okay? That is the cardiovascular disease that we see. Now, when those cholesterol patches start to harden, that's when we start to see the hardening of the arteries. And when they get plugged up, that's when we see things like heart attacks, okay? So again, cholesterol, he's not the enemy. He's not the bad guy that he's been made out to be. He's just doing the job, and the job is there because of this excessive inflammation within the body. So how do we remedy that? We start eating better. We start making our bodies healthier in general. We reduce that inflammation by helping our body to control our blood sugar appropriately.
Awesome. Well, here's the thing, it's said it's easier to change a man's religion than his diet. So what do you have for that?
The religion part of the diet. No. So there are really, what I tell people is this. I cannot expect you to go home and wipe out your entire pantry. Just go through and that's bad, that's bad, that's bad, that's bad, and then replace it all. Because first of all, it's overwhelming. Second of all, it's costly. Mm-hmm. So we're going to talk about small switches that we can start to make as soon as possible. So one of the things I want to tell you guys first are some guidelines for sugar within your diet. So these are a little bit shocking as well. Okay, so for when we talk about added sugar, I mean sugar that comes not from fruits, not from vegetables, because those are sugars coupled with fiber. They're okay. Okay, so added sugar is things like cookies, cakes, candies, white bread, tortillas, pastas, all those things that come kind of pre-made and pre-packaged. They're not great for us. So men should have less than 35 grams of added sugar a day. Women should have less than 25, and children less than 12. And just for reference, 1 teaspoon is 4 grams of sugar. Okay, so kids should have no more than 3 teaspoons of sugar a day. Wow. This is where label reading will come into play, and that's why I mentioned this right before we hop into the grocery store stuff. Okay, to give you guys a little more perspective, 1 can of Coke has close to 40 grams of sugar. Okay, so if a man is supposed to have no more than 35, he can have 1 soda a day. And just to yeah, exactly. Yeah. To illustrate how disconnected we are from this, I had a child that recently started care because of hyperactivity symptoms. And I read through her diet. She's drinking 2 sodas a day. Okay, so that's 80 grams of sugar when a child should be getting 12. And I'd like to say that's uncommon, but on average, children are getting between 80 and 100 grams of sugar every day. Okay, so read labels, step 1. But, so when we're talking about these things, when we're talking about being at the grocery store, I have a couple simple tips. Number 1, shop just the perimeter of the grocery store. So think about what's there in the perimeter. We have our vegetables, we have our fruits, we have our meat cases, we have our dairy. So I'm not a huge fan of traditional dairy, and by that I mean the pasteurized, homogenized stuff, but that's a topic for a different day. Yep. But if we can kind of stick to those things and stay away from the juicy center of the grocery store where we have all the cookies, the candies, the cakes, the sodas, the chips, we're doing better already. Okay?
Absolutely.
Yes. Secondly, stay away from those pre-made, pre-packaged things. So we want to try to avoid the white flour products. So again, breads, the cake mixes, the cookie mixes. Avoid pasta if you can. Think about really making those little switches. So when we go to the grocery store and you have on your list, I need to buy flour. I know that I understand that we all have to make, oh gosh, what's the word I'm looking for here?
Yeah, Christmas cookies coming up, Abbie.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. I guess I should mention real fast the 80-20 rule, because this helps this explanation a little bit. Try to make 80% of your diet good for you, whole foods, nature's most close to nature as possible. 80% of your diet is that. 20% can be the crap. So, like I say, when you go to the grocery store and you're shopping and you're going to be buying one of those products that is not great for you, like white flour, white sugar, make a simple swap there. So instead of getting white flour, get wheat flour instead. Instead of getting white sugar, get, the cane crystals. Get Succinat, get Rapadura. So those are all sugar options. I shop at Aldi a lot, so I can tell you their organic section is growing and growing every day. If I can get organic cane sugar at Aldi, we can certainly find it in bigger cities. Those are just a couple quick things that you can do at the grocery store. Start making small swaps and do it now. Start buying aluminum-free baking powder. Then you don't have to worry about the next time you go out. And every shopping trip, your house becomes a little bit healthier. Buy organic when you can. The easiest thing for me to tell you guys to do is just Google 2 things: the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15. Okay, so where I'm at, we have limited access to organic fruits and vegetables. The Clean 15 are the ones that you don't really have to worry about. Those are usually thicker skinned fruits or vegetables that don't absorb herbicides and pesticides as rapidly as the thinner stuff. The thinner stuff is going to be on the list of the Dirty Dozen. So generally speaking, we're talking apples, grapes, lettuces. Those will absorb herbicides and pesticides more readily. So when you're talking about spending, and I know we all have sort of limited resources when it comes to our grocery bills, buy the things on the Dirty Dozen in an organic form. Okay. Now, the next thing I want to talk to you guys about is buying as close to nature's form as possible. And that's a really super simple way to be sure that you're making healthy choices at the grocery store. Okay, so if I have a bag of chicken nuggets or I have a bag of chicken breasts, we buy the chicken breasts every time. Conversely, if I have a bag of chicken breasts, or I have a whole chicken, we buy the whole chicken. So this is also where I say, learn how to cook with real food. There's more recipes out there than I could ever give you. This is where Pinterest comes into play a little bit, but
yep.
exactly right. Start buying closer to nature's form. Those are always, always, always going to be better for you than the stuff that has been processed in any way. Okay. There was one other thing I meant to tell you guys. Oh, I know. Consider, really, really, truly consider meal planning. It makes it so simple. If you can look through your pantry and see what you have, then you go to the grocery store, you're less likely to invest in crap. If you know that you're going to buy the things to make these 4 meals, then you're going to pick up the stuff for those 4 or 5 or 12 meals. You're going to avoid the chips aisle, all the little Debbies in that aisle, if you're not perusing the grocery store, seeing what you kind of feel like for dinner. So those
Absolutely. I mean, that's a great thing. And sorry to interrupt here, but 2 websites I'd have you guys check out is pepperplate.com or plantoeat.com. And those are 2 websites that allow you to plan meals, but also they come up with a bookmark that you put in your toolbar. And if you come across a recipe you find online on Pinterest or something like that, you click that one thing, it automatically imports everything, the ingredients you need, the steps you take in a format, and then it really is just click and drag into places, and then you can even open it in your phone and it can populate an ingredients list. So those 2 websites are pretty amazing as far as that goes. And then touch on one other thing that I'd recommend you buy organic, guys. The first thing I always recommend that people switch out is butter, actually, because if you think about most toxins or most crappy stuff is really fat soluble. And if you think about some of the stuff that a cow will intake or eat, or the antibiotics or even growth hormones, stuff like that, organic butter is probably the easiest thing to switch. It does cost about twice as much as a regular stick of butter, but if you're eating that butter or intaking that butter, it's nice to have a natural form versus kind of those a high concentrate of those fat soluble toxins. So sorry to interrupt. There you go.
No, you're exactly right. I just did a presentation for our daycare providers on Monday, the daycare association in my town. And one of the things I talked to them about, because I touched on some of these things then as well, is getting to know your local farmers. We live in an area that is rural. So my dad raises cattle. My husband and I are in the process of purchasing the farm that we live on. We'll have 5 acres for grass-fed organic beef. So that's pretty exciting. But right now, I have no problem driving the 35 minutes to the Amish community. That's actually where I get raw milk. I get my eggs that are organic and grass-fed from my milkman. His name is Willis. He's a wonderful guy. If you're local, I can hook you up with his information. But he also, they make butter at his farm, and they make 2 different types of cheeses. So it's as simple as me just asking and knowing my local farmers and what they have to offer.
That's incredible. And Ogallala, we have we're in farm base too, but we're deep in grain-fed beef land. But we have those options, guys, and I can help you find those too. Especially those that raise their own and kind of keep some off to the side for themselves. They're willing to share every once in a while too. So
you're absolutely right.
I hope folks reach out for us. Yeah,
you're absolutely right. And I'm a Midwestern farmer's daughter, so. Dad kind of laughs at me when I say grass-fed beef, but nonetheless, it is becoming more available, and it's definitely more of an option now than it ever used to be. And I did read that grass-fed beef is higher in omega-3s than fish oils are. So, and like I say, I tend to shop at Aldi. I'm not driving all the way to Whole Foods every other weekend. I shop at Aldi. Aldi has grass-fed beef now, so our excuses are getting smaller as these things become more readily available. So really, it just becomes choosing that mindset that you're going to make better decisions, and then going out and doing it.
Okay. Well, mom, or not mom, but you are a mom, and I want to get real for a second here. So, you have twins, and you have another child, right? 3 kids?
Yeah.
Okay, you have 3 kids. You own your own business. And obviously, your spouse, so you have basically 4 jobs right there, because you got to take care of the house, you got to take care of the kids, you got to take care of your business, and you got to take care of your spouse. So as busy as you are, what are some of your top things that for busy moms and busy dads that are just chaotic? How can we still eat clean? How can we still do some of these suggestions that you have? I know you say meal plan, but do you have any tips for the working parent?
Yeah, absolutely. So in my office, for those of you that are my patients, you know that I tell you, I'm never going to ask you to do something that I don't do. I feel like I have to stay congruent there. So if I'm going to ask you to take a supplement, you can bet I'm taking them too. If I'm going to ask you to get adjusted often, you know that I'm going minimum every other week. So when I tell you guys to do these things, they're because they're the easiest way I found to implement the things that I believe. So the very simplest tip I can give you is to ignore our current food pyramid and start the base of your day with fruits and vegetables, specifically vegetables. So 5 to 9 servings every day. And I can tell you, if you eat that 5 to 9 like we're supposed to, you don't have much room left for crap. just to be honest. But our food pyramid is built wrong. It really is. Vegetables should be the base, then some more like lean proteins, then fruits and good fats, and then at the end of it should be our grains. So think about that. Start with fruits and vegetables. Make it your goal to do 5 to 9 in a day. Start with just 5. You would be shocked how many people don't get 5 to 9 in a week, let alone a day. So that's one really simple place to start.
And folks, I'm sorry, but potatoes don't count.
Yeah, you're right.
Not a vegetable. I'm sorry.
No.
Technically they are, but they're starch. So potatoes don't count.
They're not great. Exactly. One of the other things that I tell people to do, and these are just simple things, I want people to be able to change the health of their body with diet. And so one of the things I tell people to do, switch to good salt. Okay. So if you're buying iodized salt from Walmart, from the grocery store, throw it out. It's crap. It really is. They process it. They take out all of the minerals. Then people were getting goiter, so they threw in some iodine. Still not good for you. So in the hierarchy of salts, one of the things I tell people always, Selena Naturally Celtic sea salt. If this wasn't the best, I wouldn't tell you it's the best. I'm telling you it's the best. When we look at human mineral content, Selena Naturally is like a 70-something% match to our human mineral content. Below that, a peg below that, we're looking at Redmond's Real Salt. It matches us somewhere in the 30s. Himalayan pink salts, about a 16% match. So like I say, wouldn't tell you this if it wasn't true. Selena Naturally Celtic sea salt. You can get it on Amazon. Look it up. Half a teaspoon to a teaspoon a day. It's good salt, which helps to actually improve cell water balance. So if you're worried about your blood pressure, it will help to improve it. If you have inflammation, that's nothing but fluid collecting outside of the cells. So if we can give you good minerals that are balanced, or good salts with minerals to balance that salt, that will help to pull that excessive fluid where it needs to be, whether it's out of the body or into the cell. Okay, so that's something really simple. Half teaspoon to a teaspoon of good salt a day. The other thing, Brazil nuts. Okay, so Brazil nuts are the big, like, honkin' nuts. And when we talk about nuts, all of the raw nuts are good. Don't mess around with the salted, roasted stuff. It's really not worth our time. The Brazil nuts, though, are specifically helpful for the thyroid gland. And when we're talking about blood sugar regulation, the thyroid gland will directly affect your blood sugar handling. That's another reason I mentioned the salt. Whenever we have blood sugar handling issues, we get depleted in our minerals. So this is one way to replace them, is with good salt. Okay. So that Brazil nuts, we only need 2 a day to get our a thyroid's supply worth of selenium every single day. Okay, so those are a couple really simple things to change. Good salt, eat more fruits and vegetables, eat your Brazil nuts. The other thing, of course, stay away from the refined white processed stuff as much as possible. Say no to it. There were a couple other things I wanted to mention. I made a couple notes. Let me see here.
Yeah, so far so good. So I mean,
yes.
Vitamins.
Have you ever heard of nutritional yeast? No. Okay, so brewer's yeast. I know it sounds especially appealing, but it's incredibly nutrient dense, especially B vitamins. And B vitamins absolutely get depleted. There's a marker that we look for on blood work for inflammation. It's called homocysteine. As homocysteine goes up, our B vitamins go down. And we'll see that homocysteine goes up with inflammation. So again, as blood sugar gets dysregulated, homocysteine goes up, B vitamins go down. So brewer's yeast is really high in B vitamins. You can add it to about anything, really. So if you do a protein shake, dump it right in. If you do oatmeal in the morning, dump it right in. Anytime you make a baked good, you can throw in some brewer's yeast. it doesn't, you don't notice the taste and those sort of things, but it takes a cookie that's not so great for you, and at least we start to replace the B vitamins that we're depleting as we eat it. So that's one simple thing. If you're a nursing mom, great for your milk supply as well.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's called brewer's yeast or baker's yeast or nutritional yeast. They call them all of those things. The other thing I think I've already talked about is the 80-20 rule, but I'll just reiterate it. Try to focus on 80% of the time eating good, eating clean. And when we say eating clean, what that means is you're eating a food that's whole. It's not processed. So think about eating the apple instead of the apple sauce. This would be eating the chicken breast instead of the chicken nugget. Go back to that natural form as possible. 80% of the time, that's the stuff we should be eating. 20% of the time, show yourself some grace and know that it's okay for you to have a dessert after dinner, just as long as you don't have a dessert after dinner and it's dessert before bed, and then have breakfast cake, just saying.
Hey, it has all the food groups in cake. Come on.
Yeah. There's icing, there's cake. What more do you need?
Nice. Well, any other tips that you have, maybe just specific for the holidays, especially as we're going into that, because we just got done with the Gutbuster Thanksgiving, and we're heading off into two more big ones, and then all the bowl games too. So, any quick tips as far as that goes?
Yeah, absolutely. When you're filling your plate at Christmas, think about making half of it fruits and vegetables. More importantly, half of it vegetables. Another quarter of it the lean protein, and then a quarter can be starch. So that's where you put your potatoes. We have a tendency also to graze during the holidays because you show up and you're like, look at this, hors d'oeuvres. Don't mind if I do. And then I'm going to eat a full meal and I'm going to sample all of those desserts. That's what we do. Let's be honest. Sometimes it's one of the best parts of the holiday. But if you can just think about holding off or eating somebody, if you're going to snack beforehand, avoid the oh my gosh, what do they call those? Like the cocktail weenies, because those are terrible processed junk. Hit up the vegetable tray. And like I say, half of your plate, vegetables, a quarter meat, a quarter can be those mashed potatoes that you love or the stuffing, okay? Skip the holiday dinner rolls. And then because we can allow you that 20% that's not so great, have a dessert, keep it small, and use a small plate. Sometimes perception is everything, okay? So when you're talking about filling your plate, it's kind of interesting. If you drink from a taller, more slender cup, you will feel like you drank more than if you drink from a short, fat cup, okay? If you can take a 12-inch dinner plate and instead an 8-inch dinner plate, it's going to look like you have a lot more food on the 8-inch plate. And then studies show that you will feel just as, actually more satisfied when you eat from a full 8-inch plate than when you eat the same amount that's on a 12-inch plate, which is just silly business. But this is because, our eyes are bigger than our stomachs and we don't always have great portion control. So like I say, follow that simple rule, half vegetables, quarter meat, then a quarter can be the grains or starches, and then skip the dinner rolls. If you're going to eat beforehand, hit up the veggie tray. Otherwise, one small dessert after the meal and keep it on a small plate so it looks bigger. And usually those couple things will help you to keep from overeating. Also, while you're eating your meals, stay away from the stuff that has calories but no real content. So if you can skip the wine, skip the soda, skip the lemonades, drink water during your meals this holiday as well.
Those are some amazing tips. In fact, guys, I think we just went through 35 minutes of action-packed goodness here. Dr. Abbie, is there, if people have questions, obviously feel free to ask me, guys, if you know me, but Dr. Abbie, can you leave that, say, a little bit of contact information so people can contact you if they have questions?
Absolutely. This like Nick said, this is my passion. I love nutrition. So in my advanced studies, it's all been just a couple things. Chiropractic's my first love, so I never stopped trying to be better at that. Next up is pediatric care. I've done a couple hundred hours in pediatric care, and I love kids. And this is part of it, functional medicine. We have so many children with problems out there. I'm just trying to be the best doctor I can be to heal these kids and grow a healthier community, one family at a time at my office. So if you need help, if you need resources, you can find me on Facebook. It's facebook.com/BallardFamilyChiro. You can go to our website, ballardfamilychiro.com, or it's 217-347-5010. Or you can email us, info@ballardfamilychiro.com. My receptionist, Bethany, is great about responding to emails. Anything she can't answer or is more a clinical question, she forwards on to me. I'll do my best to get back to you in a really timely fashion.
Awesome. And folks, we've had a lot of people view this afterwards all over the country. If you have any questions about especially finding a doctor in your area that can help you with some of those sort of things, make sure you reach out to me or Dr. Abbie and we can help you out. In fact, my last webinar, we placed a good 6 to 10 kids with autism alone with nutritional response testing. And I could say that, and that was in Omaha alone. And I'm not even talking about other parts of the country. So if you're watching out there in internet land and you need help, give us a call. That's our passion, is helping. So Dr. Abbie, thank you so much for spending time away from your family and doing this. I can't thank you enough. And if you can just hang on a moment, I'm going to stop the broadcast in a moment. Any last, what's your closing line or last tip or anything you want to say to the hundreds out there?
Okay. So know this, guys. You're either going to invest in your health now or in your illness later. So this is the time to start making the changes that you need to in your health. Our medical system is changing. We've seen this with Obamacare. So as coverage changes, it's really going to be the responsibility falling to you guys more. So if I've learned nothing in the study of functional medicine, in which, like I say, I use nutrition in my office to restore function in things like diabetes mellitus or thyroid problems, things like Hashimoto's disease or autoimmune disease, trying to help patients to reverse the course of disease in their life. If I've learned nothing, it's that you have to take the responsibility, and there's no time better than the present to do it. So again, if you're struggling, if you need help, there are more practitioners out there that want to help you than you realize. Again, Dr. Nick or myself, we're happy to help you find those people. All you have to do is reach out to us.
Perfect. Happy holidays, everybody. This is Dr. Nick Fanning from Vitality Chiropractic in Ogallala, and I was joined by Dr. Abbie Ballard. Appreciate you. Thank you so much, everybody, and signing off.
Bye, guys.